was like, oh, rule of thirds. I'm blurring out the foreground. I'm blurring out the background. The subject is isolated, and I have these blocks of color, and it just clicked. And then since then, it's just like I think about that, and it's almost like I'm always looking like birds for me because I've studied birds all my, a lot of my life, and I have a really good relationship with them. That's kind of the easier part. But for me, it's the light. It's like I'm always hunting for qualities of light and qualities of color. And as I was telling you all, when I was in Costa Rica during the first part of the pandemic, literally stuck in green for a year and a half, which is like with like the ultimate form of suffering for someone that's 100% addicted to color, and especially colors that are weird and just not often found. And everybody knows when you mess with the sliders and in Lightroom and you warm stuff up and you bring in your magentas, but like really finding like wild, unruly color, you can just tell when it's real.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's like, what is that? You know what I mean?
There's no substitution for sure.
Yeah.
No AI tools powerful enough.
And then it's also like, what is it going to look like at, 45 minutes before dawn? Or not before dawn. Yeah, before dawn, before the sunrise. What's going to look like 45 minutes after? And that was something Ray actually taught me. We were walking back from a beach, and it was like the sun had set 30 minutes ago, and he was just blasting frames at an oyster catcher. And I'm like, what are you doing? You can't do that. And then he showed me the back of his camera. I was like, oh, wow, yeah, there's a light everywhere. I just can't perceive it with my eyes. But my camera is like a highly technical tool that's literally meant to understand and translate light. So why don't we use it for that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sorry about that pause there. That happens occasionally. I'll cut that out. Oops.
No, do whatever you're gonna
do. Ryan, you want to ask the next question, or you want me to? Do you?
I can go ahead.
Okay.
So is there any particular like species you're after? Is it like sparrows or shorebirds, or is you kind of like generalist and kind of go after everything?
I mean, my Instagram account really started popping when I really got into owls, but I wasn't natively into owls. That wasn't like my default. I started as a passerine guy. I like warblers, I like sparrows, and I like vireos. I just like passerines in general. But I'd say if I could spend all day, every day, if I had to, it would probably always be shorebirds. I can spend, just because the levels of creativity and light that happen in the ocean, especially if you're laying in the ocean and you're shooting things that are on the shore, and there's waves and there's qualities of light that it's just hard to get anywhere else. And so I would say that like that's my absolute, like my favorite thing to do is to be with shorebirds. It's just, there's nothing like it to me, And I like everything else, but I think with like, and Ray is taken to the next level, and some others have taken the next. Josh Galicki's taken to the next level around like songbirds, but they can do that. I just, for me, I'm always like, oh, maybe I'll just clone out this branch real quick. 3 hours later, I'm like, wait, did I even take this photo? Like, what is this thing that I just?
It's not the photo you started with.
Yeah. So what do you think it is about shorebirds that you're most attracted to?
Oh, I guess just kind of the way that they move and the way that they interact and and I guess the elegance of form and shape and like silhouette and backlight that happens with like Godwit and Curlew, and like the details of the feather on like buff-breasted sandpiper. I mean, there's just so much subtlety and beauty that comes with shorebirds, and like the changing, like think about like a red knot, and like when it's in its its hatch year, and like the just the detail in those feathers, it's like it's almost holographic, and then they shift to that beautiful bright, just like wild rufous peach color. And so like shorebirds for me just really mark the passing of time, and you can really find them anywhere. And it's just an upland sandpiper in the middle of the country, just Salt Lake City, the Great Salt Lake has just such incredible shorebirds, and Yeah, there's just something wild and exposed about them too. When you think about like a passerin or a warbler, they're able to really dive into the trees. But a shorebird has to behave differently because if they didn't, the merlin is watching, the peregrine is watching.
Yeah.
And they're going to exploit that. And I've seen it. I've seen western sandpiper, hundreds of them flying in the sky, and like, a merlin cut them in half like a shark cutting a school of fish in half. And so just the intensity and the power of flight, especially long distance flight, long distance migration, that is wrapped up in shorebirds and in waders too. And just the way waders move, they're just always exciting, and also the other piece about that is they're really accessible. Go to a beach right now, Henry, Ryan, you will find a sanderling. Even if you're, somewhere in the Arctic, there's probably random sanderling up there. And you will get to work with it right now.
Or even, in the spring season too, like along a creek bed, you'll find killdeer
and spotted
sandpiper.
Spotties, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, and you'll find them when I was down in the jungles of Costa Rica. There's spotted sandpipers bobbing their butt all over the place now. So it's like,
I mean, I even this past August, I photographed for about 5 hours one morning on a soccer field with yellow flowers behind them, and it was a bunch of killdeer, and it was one of the funnest shoots I had last year, and it was just on a soccer field. It's crazy how accessible.
Yeah.
I find like spotted sandpipers at a local community park, and I'm like, what are you guys even doing here? Like, there's like tons of like dog walkers and everything around them, but like here they are, just like on the mud flat. It's really cool to see that.
And they're accessible, and they're you can behave in a particular way that will not spook them. And they'll literally walk into your lens hood, It's just hard to say. It's just like, how am I going to train a warbler to do that? Like, how am I going to get an owl to do that? So there's just something accessible and exciting about them and whimsical that I can't get enough of,
Yeah, that's a great point. The elegance. I never really thought about that, but like especially with the silhouetted photos, you really does show the shape and form, like you said. That's a good point.
Yeah, and also I think with shorebirds, I don't know if you've seen this, but like kind of the general public don't really know about, much of the shorebird world.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like people know about plovers, I find. Like they call every little shorebird a piping plover. But besides that, it's kind of a hidden world.
It is. And they're literally, if you watch people on the beach, they're literally just like kicking them out of the way.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
Not literally, but I mean, yeah.
I mean, sometimes
I've seen pretty literal, like
oh, really?
Getting dogs sicked at them. And, I think that's the other side with shorebirds, though, is that because our beaches are very populated, and some beaches, like in North Carolina, you can drive cars on them and things like that. I think that because they are cryptic, they are kind of invisible, that people don't, give them the respect they deserve. And flying drones overhead and things like that, it can be really, shorebird life is a difficult life. And you think about changing sea levels and just all the contributing factors that go into shorebird world. It's a pretty intense world. It's pretty like red tide. I mean, you can think about all the things they face, and it's wild to be a shorebird.
Yeah, especially when they're small and out of the way. Like they're just really quiet most of the time, except for like killdeer mainly. But so you'd like one lone individual, and you're like, I barely passed you, like you said, Henry, up the creek.
Yeah,
so you like look the wrong way. It's like,
right.
You're like, dude, I don't care where your eggs are. It's just like literally just going to